Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another CattleTrace Conversation. My name is Kyler Langbart. I serve as Program Manager for U.S. CattleTrace, and we're excited to have you join us for another of our conversations. Just for your own information, our CattleTrace Conversations are built to provide conversational topics with producers, partners, and technology industry leaders in the cow-calf sector so that we can talk about issues relating to traceability and the many topics that are associated with that. So today we're excited to be joined by Race King. Race comes to us. He's a ranch manager at Matador Ranch in Dillon, Montana. Race, could you potentially describe your job at Matador and give us a little bit background of your own experiences in the cattle industry?
You bet. I manage the Selkirk Ranch, one of the ranches that's part of kind of a combined Matador Ranch and cattle here in Southwest Montana. We do run cow-calf and a stalker operation here. Do breed and retain females out of our cow-calf herd, run those cattle over as yearlings and stalker cattle, and then we do purchase additional stalkers or lighter program type cattle that we run on grass to market on further down the chain into the feeder programs for some of the niche programs.
It's great. You've had a busy past couple months in Montana, for sure, weather and cattle related wise. So we appreciate you taking some time to talk with us here today. So Race, could you kind of describe what your experience have been with RFID and particularly RFID ear tags? We've luckily been able to speak with a couple different groups of ours in the past, and they've always been interested to hear about them and how you have used those experiences in the past.
So, I guess back up, it seems like a long time ago. I don't know if it's 25 or 30 years ago, we started hearing about RFID. And actually played with a few of them in a kind of a research setting with our, within our deal. And we didn't have really any ability to read, but we put them in, was thinking about adopting, really didn't do anything with it. And that didn't really move forward at all until we got put into the designated surveillance area. And I'm going to refer to that as the DSA here in southwestern Montana. And this area is set up, and this area is set up in Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, in each of those states around the Yellowstone ecosystem, where there is a presence of brucellosis in, the wildlife population, both in the elk herd and in the bison herd. And so those of us that ranch within that greater Yellowstone ecosystem, we're kind of charged with having to do some additional testing and other monitoring requirements in order to ship and conduct business within that area. And so obviously that we looked into EID and kind of using this technology at that point to kind of simplify data collection and maybe monitoring, of the livestock as we had to go through the blood, testing requirements and different things to be able to export cattle and even move around the ranch from pasture to pasture to some point. And so that's really what got us interested in it as a tool, somewhat recommended by even our veterinarian at the time to help us maybe, processes.
Very cool. And so we have quite a few producers who come to U.S. CattleTrace and ask a ton of different questions about the technology itself. So, Race, can you kind of describe how you've seen that technology change with your experience in it? It changes at the speed of sound, but I know you have a bit of experience, like you said, when you were testing it out in some of your earlier experiments.
So I guess we've seen, really, as far as the tags themselves, on the low frequency side, nothing's changed. We're using basically the exact same tag that we were, decades ago, literally. And so nothing's really changed from that perspective, but how we use technology has vastly changed. And we've learned that, this can work well in our systems as we started to embrace technology through readers and and then integrate that into some software. The things that we've been able to do with that technology is really where the advancement has come.
That's great. And I think another common question that we get at US CattleTrace when it comes to the actual implementation of the broader technology associated with the full use of RFID, such as you use, Race, is potentially, some barriers to entry, things like, cellular service, or potential locations of those readers. What has been your experience as a kind of, I won't call you a tech manager, but you get to be there every day with that technology. What have your experiences been on the ranch with that technology barriers, and how have you seen that change?
Well, I think the biggest barrier on the technology has been us as humans. And, I will be honest, 20 years ago, I could barely send an email, right? And, everything I did with electronics was like going to the dentist. It wasn't something I looked forward to. And, but things have changed. And, I would say the things that have really changed in our operation is probably, as us as producers, our attitude towards it has changed immensely. And as we've become, it didn't happen overnight, but as we evolved, our systems evolved, we have really come to look at it as a way that we save a lot of time and increase accuracy of data collection. It helps us with inventory records, all of these things. And maybe the big thing that has changed is that really, even though I mentioned the tag hasn't really changed, but the way that readers that we use within our systems communicate, via Bluetooth and different things. We used to be hardwired and having to pack a computer and, our laptops and battery and maybe a generator out in a remote area to collect data. And now, like the device, the wand, if you will, the ID reader, that we utilize for a lot of our cow-calf operation, we can capture all the information we want, be entering weights, breedings, preg check information, all on the wand, and without even really being required to pack a computer. And so kind of the applications, I feel like, are what's really advanced on the low frequency side. And we look at it as a real benefit to our operation at this point.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I think we can all agree that technology is going to continue to advance even further. And so I appreciate your willingness to stick with it and change your operations. I think hopefully it sounds like it's been beneficial for you and your ranching operations. I think another common question we get, Race, is this decision making when it comes to ultra high frequency and low frequency. And I know you have experience with both. Can you kind of describe what benefits you see to both of those technologies potentially, and maybe applications that you've had on your ranching operations with the ranch currently?
You bet. I guess we'll start with low frequency because that's where we're started and that's still our base. It's been around a long time. One of the real benefits to it is that about every feed yard that gets cattle from us can read those tags. They're all set up with equipment. Those tags are approved through all the various programs and, with the compliance that manufacturers go through to make sure that everything's standardized. There's just, the whole industry can communicate about any reader will read any tag. And so it's great. The strengths, I think, of that system for us are chute side. In close proximity, that's still my favorite form of, reading an animal right at the chute. It doesn't have a large reach range, but it's very accurate with a wand right there, near a head catch or in an alley. We can collect data very, efficiently and reliably. And so it's got a lot of strengths from that perspective. We have gone on and we have been interested in trying to do things a little more automated and during shipping of program cattle and various sorts that we have to make to be able to do some of those, reads, if you will, without running the cattle through the chute. And so that really is what got us interested in testing and doing some work with the various ultra high frequency tags and software that's out there. And so The benefits to it is greater read range. The ability to read animals while they're moving down an alley 3 or 4 or 5 wide. There are some limitations that we find. That technology is a little different in that we still like to roll the cattle around us in the alley, much like we would if we were just tallying or maybe going past an order buyer or something. If we have those scanners set up in an area like that, where we get them down to 2 or 3 wide and can control that, we get really good read rates with them. And but the downside, and that that really helps us at shipping time. The downside to it is you have greater read range. So the same thing that's the positive to it can also be a little bit of a downside until you realize how that technology really works. And maybe an explanation of that is around the chute, for instance. You got to really kind of build a system. And, because if you have cattle standing in an alley 10 or 12 or 15 feet away, you could be picking up tags. And, your software might be thinking you're working an animal in a chute when really you read the one behind the chute, for instance. And so there are some issues there that we have to kind of dial in and understand. And so, like you said, I don't know that any technology will ever be perfect, but the use of ultra high frequency really is exciting for us because we can capture some records in real speed of commerce, without having to add any other stress or anything to the animals. And so we like its future in our operation.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Race. I think that also echoes a little bit of what we do at US Cattle Trace in the sense of both UHF and LF are utilized in traceability systems today and will continue to be. So you mentioned it there. We've got new traceability technology coming along all the time. And so we're going to be adaptable and really work towards making sure that you as a producer can utilize that in whatever fashion you'd like. I guess the last question I have, Race, is we have quite a few folks have interest in technology like this, but are sometimes unsure of where to start. You mentioned in the past that you kind of started just playing around with this technology in general. What tips would you have for just an average producer who wants to learn more about this technology, but maybe is not ready for a full investment of the whole EID system on their operation?
Well, I think, if I look at how a lot of producers start with the technology, they start by ordering some tags and getting involved in the traceability program in some way with either some value-added calves or something. Producers in our area are using those tags as a first step to be replace the bangs tags, if you will, for mandatory calf foot vaccination and different things like that. And so they're not really required to keep a lot of data or have readers at that point because the veterinarian that's applying those and then in the other systems, so the next producer down the road can scan them. And so you really don't have to have a huge investment there. But to do things yourself, I think you really got to understand what data points you're going to want to collect. The idea is to do more than just read those tags, but maybe you're going to be scanning those tags at a time where you can really maybe collect some management notes. And one of the things that we find, we think our data that we do collect, we don't collect a lot of data on a commercial ranch. It's very simple compared to seed stock or purebred operations, but they are important data points. And what we find is by using the technology, we eliminate a lot of human errors when it comes to data entry. And we've probably all, if you're a producer out there that's been interested in performance or health monitoring or any of these things, you've probably ended up with binders of notebooks and pages, or notebooks stacked all over my desk that I really didn't do a lot with the information because I was too slow at typing, with my 2-finger typing. And this, really can help you. And I think, if you're interested in any of those things, I think that's a great place to start. And once again, I think if you're someone that absolutely hates technology, I personally, I never thought about this, but I had a friend that was an older gentleman that wasn't really interested in embracing technology himself, found that by using this little bit of technology, it was something that a younger member of his family was able to contribute to their operation. And it helped him bring somebody back to the ranch. It gave them something that they could do that was a skill set that they already had with utilizing, some electronics. And he used it as a way to bring his family closer together and really be able to bring the next generation back to the ranch. So I think, there is as many ways to start and use this in your operation as you've got ideas.
That was excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Race. I think that's all the questions I had for you, or some of the questions that we've come from producers who we've talked to. Greatly appreciate your time, Race, here today. Race is a great member, not only a member of US CattleTrace, but a great member of the cattle industry altogether. So we appreciate you taking some time to talk with us here today, and for those who are listening at a later point in time. Thank you for joining us again for CattleTrace Conversation. As a reminder, these are monthly sessions, so be looking forward to next month, where we talk with another industry partner. And if you're interested in anything more about RFID technology or animal disease traceability, you can always learn more at www.uscattletrace.org. Thank you, and we'll see you again next month.
Thanks, Kyler.